So this video is about stop and search rights. So let's start with the most important fact. The police are racist, not just as people or individuals, but as an organisation, as an institution as a whole. If you look at the areas that they target and the suspected crimes that they focus on, all while the rich are stealing millions through tax evasion, while they put absolutely zero effort into curtailing this, they would rather be harassing young black men and women on the streets. And one of the ways that they do this is through stop and search. So the police have the power to stop and search you if an officer has reasonable grounds to believe that you've been involved in a crime, or if they think that you're in possession of a prohibited item. In practice, though, police frequently use stop and search powers for other purposes, such as gaining intelligence on people who are known to the police, to break up and move on groups of people, and for purposes of social control more generally. Although there's no basis in law for the police to use the power to stop and search for these purposes, the practice is widespread, so it's important to know your rights. So this abuse of power is most obvious when we look at stop and search figures by race. So for example, in 2018 in England and Wales, black people were 40 times more likely to be stopped and searched than a white person. And then if you look at separate London figures where the practice is, I would say, most prevalent, a black person was 12 times more likely than a white person to face a more thorough search, with over 400 searches conducted on a black person compared with 152 on a white person. So if you are stopped and searched, first thing is first, ask the officer whether it's actually a stop and account or a stop and search. If it's a stop and account, you're free to leave at any time and you don't need to answer a single question or give them any personal details. However, if it's a stop and search, as I said, they must have reasonable grounds for suspicion, not based on ethnicity, race or gender. However, reasonable grounds in practice are entirely subjective, hence the level of discrimination that I mentioned. In the UK, the police are allowed to stop and question you more or less at any time. They can ask you what your name is, why you're in the area, what you're doing and where you're going. However, you're not obliged to answer these questions and you can't be charged for not doing so unless you are deemed a suspect or a witness, in which case, if asked to do so, you have to give your name, address, date of birth, and place of birth and nationality. If you give false information or you refuse to answer in this case, you're technically committing an offence for which you can be arrested and charged. In terms of being able to refuse a search, if you're not guilty and they have no grounds to issue a warrant, then you can explain that they don't have the right to search you. But if they have the grounds to warrant a search, which we know can be entirely spurious, and if they've provided you with their ID and their reason for the search, you can't refuse. And if you do refuse, they can use force against you. However, before they search you, they must tell you their name and police station, what they expect to find, as in an object reported as stolen or something like that, and the reason that they want to search you. They also have to tell you why they are legally allowed to search you, and they have to tell you that you can have a record of the search, and if this isn't possible at the time, they need to tell you how you can get a copy of that. So it's important to remember that they can only search your outer clothing, and though they're allowed to ask you to remove a coat, a hat or religious attire such as a turban or hijab, if they want to do this, it has to be done by a police officer of the same sex and away from public view. It's really important to remember, don't offer up any more information than is required by law, as they can use this against you or others, and they're prone to doing so. The Black Panther Party actually used to patrol the pigs and follow them around and make sure that they were following the law. Huey P. Newton, who was the co-founder of the party, used to carry a law book everywhere he went, and this would make people feel less alone when dealing with the police and their harassment and brutality. And knowing your rights is the first step, but obviously something more has to be done.